Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will be making this mini charm square Santa Christmas ornament. Can you see his face? There he is. He's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make the mini charm square Santa ornament, we will start with the mini charm squares. I'm using the Jolly Good collection from Basic Gray by Moda. I'm just going to flip through here and pull out all the reds. And thank you, Moda. All the reds are together here. I need 6 for this project. Like that. Okay. Now I know from experience, which I can actually show you, that when I'm making this, here's my pattern. I'm only going to get a little tiny corner of these 2 fabrics. So what I'm going to do is take this one and I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch off. So that way these will be in a little bit closer and then I can see more of these 2 fabrics. I think I'll turn this one so there's a little more red. Okay. So I will cut about a 1/2 inch off the edge, one edge of this, which is the bottom center. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to piece these with a 1/4 inch seam, just 1, 2, 3. This is the top, and then 1, 2. I'm just moving this one to keep the red toward the top, and I'm moving this one so that the geometrics aren't right next to each other. Here are my 3 rows, and now I'm just going to center them and stitch them together to form a little pyramid, and I'll be right back. Here's how it looks. I've pressed all my seams open, and here's my pattern. Now I'll tell you, it's important to place the pattern so that this top tier is all the way up as high as you can get it without coming off the edge. So as high as you can. That looks good. I'm just going to trace this and cut it out. Here we go, that looks good. And now I have a layer of cotton batting. This is a 5-inch square and a 5-inch square of 50 weight non-woven Pellon. So I'm going to pin this. Then I'm going to stitch around the edge with the smallest seam allowance that I can manage. Here's how it looks. Now I'm going to add some quilting, and I'm using red thread. So I'll do a line down the center, and then I'll do a line 1/4 inch to the right, and then another 1/4 inch, and then to the left, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. So I'll have 5 vertical lines. Here's how it looks. Now I used red thread for my quilting. Of course you could use white or off-white or any color you like. And now I'm going to add the trim. I've chosen this white rickrack with a little gold in it, and I'm going to put that right down the center. And it's important to stop right there at that seam because I want to be sure that I don't go too far, because then when I put this over, I don't want that showing. Can you see what I mean? So I'm going to make sure that this vertical piece just sort of ends right there at the horizontal seam, right there. Then I've switched my thread to white thread, and I'm just going to sew right down the center of the trim. And now for the second piece of trim, I'm going to make sure that I sort of set this so that the rickrack conceals the, just making sure that this end of the rickrack doesn't show. Kind of like that. And then I'll stitch that. Here's how it looks. And now I'm going to cut it out all the way around. And there is my Santa front. It's complete. Now for my Santa back, I have a scrap of red fabric. Now, I think that I could use a 5-inch square, a charm square. So if you want to use a charm square, that will work. And I designed this specifically so that it would fit on a charm square. But just because I don't want to have to be too particular about it, I'm going to go and get a kind of cut a shape for the back. I have selected this star print for the back. Even though I didn't use it on the front, it is part of the collection. And I'm going to sew these right sides together all the way around this curved edge, leaving the top open. I'm also going to backstitch securely here so that when I turn it, that this stays together. This is sewn together, right sides together, and now I'm going to use my pinking shears to cut this out. Now I'm going to turn it right side out and begin to stuff it. I'm going to use a good quality Polyfill Ultra Plush. And I'm just going to stuff this until it's nice and firm. And I'm really glad that I reinforced these seams at the top because, you know, there's a lot of kind of force as you're stuffing, and depending how big your fingers are. And then sometimes I'll use a chopstick to make sure I can reach all the way down to the bottom, but this is not a very large project and it's not that hard to reach down. Just a small amount at a time, sort of get it in there and then push it down. I'm going to continue to stuff this, and when it's nice and plump, I will be back. I'm stuffed to the top, and now I'm going to gather it up. So I'm going to insert my needle from the inside, and oops, maybe my knot needs to be bigger. Let's see. And then I'm just going to gather with a running stitch in and out all the way around through. I'm just going through a single layer here. I mean, yes, this layer does have batting, but in other words, I'm not going to gather it like this together. I'm going to gather it around the circle. Back to where I started. Then I'm going to tuck in that seam allowance to make it nice and flat on the top. And gently pull this. I don't want to break my thread. Okay, and then it's almost like I'm going around again, but I'm just making 1 or 2 long stitches. And then through the back, like that. And maybe 1 more around to here. Make sure that's nice and tight and flat on the top. And then I'm going to go through to the back to secure my thread. And here's how I secure my thread. I'm going to make a French knot, 1, 2, 3. I'm wrapping toward the point. Then I'll reinsert my needle. And then just gently pull that through until the knot is resting on the surface of the fabric right there, and then pop it through like that. And now we can add the head. This is a 1 1/4 inch wooden ball knob. I have already made the face, and I have instructions for the face. I have a video called something about making a Santa face, and I will link to it somewhere so you can make your own Santa face. There's nothing to it. It's really easy. I'm going to squeeze some hot glue right here on the flat surface of the neck of the head here. Okay, and then I'm going to press it onto the top where all those gathers are. And I use a lot of glue because I want to make sure that this holds. And the beard is going to cover this anyway, so I don't need to worry if it gets a little bit messy. I'm just going to hold this until it's nice and secure, just for a second. Let's make the hat. If you look at the pattern, you'll see that these ends right here are straight before they curve, and that's so that I can fold up 1/4 inch here, and I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to stitch it. I've pressed up the edge to the inside, and now I'm just going to do a little hem along the edge. There we go. I know it's hard to see, but there is a hem there. And now I'll fold this in half, right sides together, and stitch up this curved edge. Trim the point here and this bottom edge here. Just trim those seam allowances. Maybe a little bit more up here. And then turn this right side out. It's good, but I'm going to use a needle to pull this out to the very tippy top of the point. There we go. Let's try the hat on. The seam goes in the back. And then we're going to have some trim around the brim, but first we're going to sew a jingle bell on the point of the hat. I'm using a 9mm gold craft bell. Hobby Lobby. I'm going to secure the knot inside the hat. That looks good. And then through the top of the bell, I'll go around and through a couple of times. And then I'll secure my thread in the seam. So I have a hat with a bell on the tip, and the hem is turned to the inside and sewn. And then I'm going to place it on the head, but I don't want it to come too far, too close, because I'm going to add some trim, and I want to have room to add the trim and still see the features. So it's going to look about like this. It's just back a little bit further than you think it should be. And then I'm going to glue the trim on. I'm going to start right here and then go all the way around. And then when I fold this over, it's going to cover and conceal the ends of the trim. All right, so I'll start. Actually, it's kind of reckless, but what I'm really going to do is squeeze some hot glue all the way around the inside rim of the hat. So just all in here. It's not too close to the fold because I don't want it to ooze out too much. But even if it does, it's okay because I can add the trim and cover it. Ooh, that's nice and tight. That is just perfect. Okay, there we go. The seam is in the back and it's nice and tight. Great. Now I'm going to add some trim. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of glue along here and then here and here and here, and then just kind of press this into the glue as I go. That's about 1 inch of glue. That looks good. And then I'll just add the rest of the glue along to here and then overlap the ends right there. Don't really need a lot of glue. There we go. And then where they overlap, like that, and then just glue those ends over. And there we go. I'm not going to glue this down yet. First, I want to make the beard. All right, so for the beard, we're going to use these are two 4x6 index cards. And I'm using 2 types of yarn just for fun. One is loopy and then one is fuzzy. I'm going to wrap the card the short way for about 3 inches. So if this is a 6-inch wide card, I'm just going to cover about half of it. I'm using both strands at once. That looks like enough. Now I'm going to go to my machine and stitch right down the middle like this. Here's how it looks. I've sewn across twice, and there's the back, and now I'm going to remove the card. This takes a second to get it all out. That looks good. Actually, I think there's some paper right here. Okay, so this is going to be the beard. The center, let's call this I usually call it the wig, but let's just call it the beard. The center of the beard goes right in the center front. And then the ends connect in the back. And these actually go over the hat in the back, which is why we put the hat on before we do the beard. And this looks like plenty. The other thing is, don't put the beard too high. If you put it too high, it's going to obscure the features. So move it all the way down to the chin, just almost to the neck. I will squeeze out some hot glue right along this edge right here, and I'll show you what I mean. There we go. See how low that is? And then the center, right where that seam is, gets pressed into the glue. And if you want to, you can peek and see how it looks. That's how it's going to look. And then I'm going to add some more glue. This is a little too long. I might cut out a little bit. Here, I'll cut out a little bit just so I can show you how that's done. Just cut the seam and then the ends. Then I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out some glue along here. And then press this in along the back. Hold that for a second. Okay. And we're going to press that down. Here's how it looks. Looks pretty good. Then I'm going to squeeze out a little more glue on the seam in between the 2 sets of loops. So right along this seam. And that is so I can press that down to make sure that that beard stays in place. Also, I like for the beard to come up a little bit where the ears would be. So I'm going to also do a little styling over here. First, I put some glue in the seam, and then I kind of press it up. And the same thing over here, I'll show you again. So there's the glue in there, and then I kind of fold it down, and then kind of press it up so that it kind of sticks a little bit higher. That looks good. See how much space there is there? There'll be a mustache right here. And then in the back, might style this a little bit too. That looks good. You can see the trim on the hat right there. And then the beard goes all the way around. It's a nice full beard. And you can also see why it wasn't important which fabric we use at the top, because that one's really hidden. Now let's add a mustache. Okay, for the mustache, I'm going to use this loopy mohair. Nice long tail, hold it here, and then wrap 1 and 2 and 3 and. So there's 3 loops. Then drop this down in between like that. Pick up the first tail and tie it off in the center. Here's where I usually use my teeth. But I can do it without using my teeth probably. There we go. So there's a knot in the center. All right. Now here's our mustache. Very cute. The center of the mustache where that knot is just gets glued right here beneath the nose. That's all there is to it. I'm going to put the glue on the face, so right there on the face, instead of on the mustache. And then I'm pressing the mustache into that drop of glue. That looks good. Very good. Okay, and then I'm going to fold down the top of the hat. I like when the bell kind of winds up in the beard. And I'm going to use a lot of glue here. So I'm going to put some glue right here where these ends of the trim overlap, and then just quickly press it down. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of stuffing in the hat, but I didn't think this looked quite right with a stuffed hat. This one's really all about the patchwork and the big beard. Now finally, we just need a hanging loop. I'm going to use this baker's twine for a hanging loop, and I'm actually sewing through the hat, which is another reason why it's important to get that securely glued on. See, about that long. The glue is the only thing that's actually supporting the whole ornament. And also try to get the loop kind of so that the center of gravity is right in the middle, so it's not leaning forward or back. And we're done. Cute. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.